Welcome to the 3 Championship Drive podcast hosted by me, Lance Caporossi, and I hope all of you had a great weekend that are actually choosing to listen to the podcast today. I know I had a great weekend, hung out at the mother-in-law's all weekend, great time, pool available, people waiting on me hand and foot, and I'm talking about my mother-in-law for some reason. She's a typical grandma now, just... What do you need? I got it. Let me get it for you. It's pretty great. Not going to lie. I had to really do nothing. I slept so much. I probably took like 4 naps today on this Sunday just because I was so relaxed that my youngest was being taken care of by everybody in the house. So I really didn't have to worry. So I got to relax. You know how nice that is as a parent where you can just relax and just breathe a little easier knowing your child is going to be taken care of in your absence? It is a great feeling. If you're a parent, hopefully you get that moment from time to time. I hope you do, because I know I do, and I know how much I enjoy it. I know how much all parents would enjoy that feeling. First and foremost, we are a Pistons podcast, so let's get into some Pistons talk. Jalen Duren, we haven't had any real updates. Virtually since Walker Kessler was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. The last bit of news we got was that Detroit was firm on not paying him more than $35 million a year, which I like. I think that's totally fair for Durant. That's a nice chunk of change. Maybe he doesn't sign for 5 years, starting off at $35 million. Maybe he says, let's do a 3-year deal, or maybe let's do a 4-year and let that be a player option. Or maybe we do the 5 years and you put a player option in at the end. I don't know. Allow him to, if he does the 5 years with the player option, he'll be 26 when he can sign his 3rd contract, just entering or just at the beginning of his prime in the NBA. I don't know. There's ways to make this happen. And I think 35 is fair for Durant. If you want to argue more, that's fine. I don't want to hear it. I think 35 is great. I know I've said on past episodes, like, I would be fine with signing him up to 220 because realistically at the time I was. But now once you see how much Walker Kessler got, that's who I've really been comparing him to this entire time. Now I understand Durant has an all-star appearance in an all-NBA 3rd team to his resume now. I just think that they're both young, impactful centers. Durant obviously impacts the offensive end. Walker Kessler on defense. 35 is good because, again, Durant's still young. He can bet on himself. He can get to that 3rd contract. But also 35 says there's more development to be made, and I think you can do it. And plus, with the way contracts are and how they go up, like his average will go up from here. He's good. 35 is fine for Durant. And hopefully we get an actual update. Hopefully there's maybe either he gets signed or there's some great deal being worked out right now with Jalen Duren and his camp. That I just need something to be done. I just want this part of the offseason to be over with Jalen Duren. I just want to move on. I want to see if there's maybe another move the Pistons could make to make this team better. Maybe there's a signing. Maybe there's things on hold right now because he hasn't signed. Once he signs, we'll get some more. I think we'll get a clear path or a clear view of how this team will look in the upcoming season. So John Collins, he signs with the Detroit Pistons. This is by now old news. I felt like we didn't get to talk about it a lot though on the last episode. But he swears that he will be better than the last Atlanta Hawks forward the Pistons acquired in free agency. That was Josh Smith. I know that Duren technically was with the Clippers last season, but he played the bulk of his career in Atlanta so far. So, it's just a little joke. Just meant to be funny. I don't think he's Josh Smith. It's just he happens to be a forward we're signing that once played for the Atlanta Hawks. And, we have some mixed history with former Hawks. We won a championship with Rashid, and we set this franchise down in a burning spiral when we signed Josh Smith. But anyways, John Collins, 3 years, 51. I believe it's a similar contract as to Duncan Robinson. And that's pretty great. That means the first year of his contract is guaranteed, and after that, it's just kind of crazy. Yeah, so as I'm looking at this now, the first season, 16.2 million is fully guaranteed. And then in 27, 28, and 28, 29, 17 and 17.8 million are non-guaranteed. I want to dive a little deeper into that contract. I wonder if it just means once he hits a certain date, then it will be guaranteed. Just like, yeah, it probably is. I don't need to look any more into that. I'm good. Interesting, though, he can't be traded till December 15th of 2026. I believe Kevin Huerter can't be traded until December 15th either. Anyway, I like the John Collins signing. He's a true stretch four. This is something we've wanted. He can play some small ball five. There's not a lot of self-creation to his game. Fun stat, though, his last year in Utah, his assisted field goals made were actually lowest than they had been in the entirety of his career. Now, not by much. It was in the 60s. Typically, he's in the 70s, meaning a lot of his offense is created by others. You think of him and Trae Young, and then you think of him this past season when he was playing with James Harden and Kawhi Leonard and then Darius Garland out in LA. You get the idea. Offense for him, he doesn't create it for himself. He's a play finisher, not a play starter. But I think he's great. I think him and Cade are going to work really well in the pick and roll. I think he gives a lot of vertical spacing. He can catch lobs and finish them. He can finish in transition. He can hit the corner three at a great percent. I think he was at 40% last season. There's a lot to love about John Collins. I see some people complaining because he doesn't provide exactly what Tobias Harris provided on offense. Tobias Harris was a guy, give me a great matchup. I'm going to back you down, get to my spot, and I'm going to hit like 9 out of 10 of these shots because I'm that automatic. That was Tobias Harris. He could put the ball on the floor. He had a little wiggle to his game. He could dance with the defense. You don't get that with John Collins. You get a play finisher with John Collins. But honestly, I think he improves the team. I think he's a slightly better defender than Tobias Harris. I think he's a better play finisher when it comes to being transition. I think that has more to do with youth. But then also, I just love his movement without the ball. Like, I was going back and watching some of his time with the Clippers where I felt like he played in more of a reduced role than he did in Utah. And there was a lot of movement. It wasn't like, obviously, how you see Steph, but you can tell this guy is very good at reading the defense and picking his spots, and he knows where to go. He knows where to go when the defense gives him what he wants. I love seeing that in John Collins. I think he's going to be excellent here in Detroit, and I think, though, that scoring number, he averaged 13 last year, I think that's going to climb to his Utah days where he was 19 a game his final season. Yeah, you heard that right. I think we're looking at another 19, 20 points per game score, even with Jalen Durant on the team. I think, if anything, you're going to see at least probably the third leading scorer on the team in John Collins, but I definitely think there's a way for him to be the second leading scorer on this team. Just because he brings more to the offensive table. He can finish in the post, he can catch lobs, he can put the ball on the ground a little bit, and he can hit a three-pointer. Like, he's pretty much a three-level scorer without having the ISO part of his game. And he's a pretty good rebounder as well. Career 8 a game. Good at blocking shots. Career 1 a game. Almost averaged 2 his third season in the NBA. Just a touch under. Yeah, he's a good player, man. He brings a lot to the table. I don't think he's elite in any way, but if you're complaining about a John Collins signing when he is almost exactly what you want, there's no pleasing you. There's nothing the Detroit Pistons could do to make you happy, and they shouldn't even try. Just give John Collins some time and see what he does in a Pistons uniform before we cast judgment. Kevin Durant would love to play with Cade Cunningham, and before the reporter cut him off, finished by saying during All-Star Weekend. Kidding. Kidding again. Just trying to be funny. Brighten up your morning. But Kevin Durant in the Detroit Pistons, on the Detroit Pistons playing alongside Cade Cunningham, I'll be honest with you guys. That's a match made in basketball heaven. Can't we agree on that? Kevin Durant provides elite spacing, one-on-one play. He can hit the mid-range. He can attack the rim. He can pass. Like, he can get to the free throw line. He is elite in so many ways. Problem is, he destroys locker rooms. Do you want that? I don't know. But if Kevin Durant is up for grabs, and if I'm sitting in Trajan Langdon's seat, I'm trying to get a deal done for Kevin Durant, just because I think he gives you everything you're looking for, and he makes your team that much better, especially in the Eastern Conference. Like, man, I don't know if Kevin Durant has ever played with a guy like Cade Cunningham, where it's a point guard who just wants to create and put you in the best spot possible. Oh, yeah, he played with Chris Paul. What am I talking about? Anyway, I'm for the Kevin Durant deal. I think it would be fantastic. I think the Pistons would be absolutely stupid not to at least pick up the phone and listen to Houston if they're willing to make a deal for KD. I understand that I've said in the past, too, like, I'm not really willing to make an all-in move. And I wasn't with Kawhi. I do think there's a chance you probably get at least 2, maybe 3 years with Kevin Durant. So I'd be more willing to bring him in. But also Kawhi, I just don't know if he really provided the elite spacing that a Kevin Durant does. I mean, Kevin Durant, in my opinion, is the greatest scorer to ever play the game of basketball. Because he can hurt you in so many ways. And he's just so good at the game. I don't think anybody's better than him. I'm sure you can point to some guys on paper and say, look, this guy did this, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But from what I've watched as a basketball fan, Kevin Durant's the best on the offensive end. So that's why I would be more willing to make kind of what I call, quote unquote, an all-in move by trading multiple draft picks for a player. Because I've kind of eased up my thoughts and opinions on late first-round picks. I'm someone that believes in draft capital. I believe you can find someone late in the draft, but also I just think I'm good at finding talent late. But really, if I looked at over the course of my career of picking people in late, which I don't even have a career of doing, I'd probably be under 50%. So anyways, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'd be fine with them trading late first-round picks because that's what these are going to be if the Pistons continue to improve. I don't know how much value they add to a team. Like, I mean, are you hoping you draft Kevon Looney? Maybe. But late first-round picks, I'm good on. I'd be more than happy to trade them for a Kevin Durant. DeMar DeRozan is expected to be waived by the Sacramento Kings. And I kind of like DeMar DeRozan in Detroit just because he does provide a shot creator to this team and a little bit of a playmaker. I understand he definitely operates inside the three-point line. This dude is a mid-range merchant. Shot 49.7% from the field last year. Like, he loves the mid-range. It's what he's good at. That's his bread and butter. That's why has over 30,000 points to his name. It's unbelievable what this guy has done in the NBA. And it's all from the mid-range. It's incredible what DeMar DeRozan has done. Let's see how many points he scored. 26,000. I wanted to say more than 25,000, but then if you're like, well, he scored 30, 25,000, that's kind of a cop-out, but I should have just trusted my gut on that. But like I said, I do like it for Detroit if, and this is a big if he is willing to come off the bench. If he wants to come to Detroit and he wants to start, I would pass on DeMar DeRozan. I'd be perfectly honest. I don't know if Detroit is in a position where they can ask a DeMar DeRozan to come off the bench and be a sixth man. I personally would really love that because I don't think your offense would, it sounds crazy saying this, but if DeMar DeRozan is on the floor and you happen to be sitting Cade, I don't think your offense struggles that much with DeMar because he does generate gravity even inside the three-point line, where even though he's not Cade as a playmaker, he'd still be able to generate some baskets for his teammates. That's what he can do, and I think the offense would be great. But that's a big if for him to come off the bench. Maybe you say, well, maybe you start him and then he's the first sub. No, I think you really got to make it firm with DeMar DeRozan. Look, you're going to come off the bench. You're probably not going to play with Cade a ton of minutes this season. We're obviously going to find some spots to have you both on the floor, but what we really want from you is to run the second unit. You're basically our de facto point guard in the second unit. You run things, you do whatever you want, but let's keep a lead when Cade sits. That's what I'd be asking out of DeMar DeRozan. I know he said that he'd be fine with going to a contender. Depends on how you define contender. Really? I mean, if you're saying, hey, a team with an outside chance of winning a championship, if a few things go right, Detroit's your team. Or do you go to New York and say, hey, I'd come off the bench, I had a chance for winning a championship? You're probably taking that contender versus the contender scenario I came up with. But yeah, you never know. Plus, maybe it could be a big FU to Toronto fans by coming to Detroit, I guess. I don't know. But like I said, I kind of like the idea of DeMar DeRozan playing basketball for the Detroit Pistons. It really just depends on what kind of role he wants in Detroit. The New Orleans Pelicans are lowering their asking price for Trey Murphy from 4 first-round picks to 3 first-round picks. And again, I know I've said in the past that I wouldn't trade 3 first-round picks for Trey Murphy because trading 3 first-round picks, even if they're going to be late in the first round, is a win-now move. But again, I softened my stance on this. I think Trey Murphy doesn't give you the elite ISO that you really rely on in the playoffs, but he provides so much for the Detroit Pistons. Like, he can play the 2, the 3, or the 4. I don't even know with John Collins if you'd even ask him to play the 4. I don't know. But I think Trey Murphy, even when he doesn't bring the shot creation, he brings enough offensively for you to want him and for me to be like, yeah, 3 first-round picks and say Caris LeVert and Ron Holland. I did the trade. That makes sense. It actually creates a $3 million trade exception, too, for the... Wow, I'm blanking on the team. I can't believe I'm just blanking on the team right now. For the New Orleans Pelicans, I don't know if they do it, though. I don't know if, Joe DeMars and Troy Weaver actually pull the trigger on a trade for Trey Murphy, especially with Detroit. It kind of feels like, dude, we're going to do a deal with anybody but you guys. Even though we say we're going to keep it professional, we're not going to keep it professional with you and just hang up the phone. That would be hilarious, not going to lie. But also, this kind of feels like Troy Weaver. I know he doesn't make all of the decisions in New Orleans, but this kind of feels like one of these things where when he traded like Bojan and he traded Alec Burke, and we were all of us as fans were like, it would be nice to keep these guys, but right now their value is not any higher and it won't get any higher. Maybe we should flip them at the deadline for some draft capital or for some expiring deals. What do you know? And then he ended up trading them for like, who did he end up trading him for in that trade? I don't know. It was like, I can't believe I'm blanking. I don't even remember the trade. I know it was to New York. It was the guy that scored 50. Malachi Flynn, I believe, was in that trade. I don't know. But he did not get the value for those 2 players that he could have if he had just made the deal a year earlier. This kind of feels like what he's doing with Trey Murphy. I guarantee you teams have called New Orleans and just inquired and maybe talked to, just to say, hey, let's open the negotiating tables. And they've offered something for Trey Murphy and they've denied it. And the package will probably be better than what they would actually get. Like if New Orleans gets Ron Holland, Caris LeVert, and 3 first-round picks for Detroit, I would say Detroit fleeced them. Sizzling. Hot take right there. I feel like if that was the trade, Detroit would fleece the New Orleans Pelicans with that trade. Because there's a lot of question marks with Ron Holland. Caris LeVert, he didn't play so well this past season. Playoffs, I know he had a moment or two, but yeah, he might be at the tail end of his career. And those 3 first, if, maybe low 20s, that's fine. I'm willing to do it. That's a fleece for me. Thank you for listening to the 3 Championship Drive podcast. I'm Lance Caporossi. Do me a favor, follow, subscribe, rate, review, but more importantly, tell a Pistons fan